On the Track is a monthly web TV show about cryptozoology, natural history, green issues and whatever else the team feel like making up as they go along. Enjoy!
Karina, come in, love. We've got a problem. It's quite a big problem this time, I'm afraid.
What's wrong this time?
Well, I'm afraid it's on the track. We've had a complaint.
Have you offended somebody again?
No, Karina, it's not me. I haven't offended anyone. It was you.
This is absolutely ridiculous. John is being so stupid. It makes me want to spit. Velvet Underground cover band indeed. With loads of macaws and parrots in it. Nobody's ever heard of it anyway, have they?
And I'm afraid Miss Louise Cockatoo, who you probably know better as Lou Cockatoo, has come here to make the complaint in person.
Hello, Miss Cockatoo.
Apparently you said that you didn't want to hear any of Miss Cockatoo's music, and she is most offended. There's going to be big trouble unless you apologise and say that you want to hear her song.
I'm sorry, Miss Cockatoo. I'm sorry to have offended you, and I would love to hear your song.
This is an original song that I wrote about Archie and the chickens. It's called Squawk on the Wild Side.
Archie goes outside now and again to answer a call of nature and to see the hens. He went to the chicken coop and the hen whose wattle began to droop said, "Hey Archie, take a squawk on the wild side," and the coloured birds go. On the wild side.
Hello, I'm Lou Cockatoo, and welcome to another episode of On the Track.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this month we have a fascinating, a fact-packed and hopefully fun-packed episode for you. And as well as various bits of satikiform tomfoolery, we have a fascinating new insight into the film which appears to show an unknown primate from northern Iran that we first showed you a few months ago. The latest news from Loch Ness. Matt Salisbury talking about wood roses in Suffolk. The new issue of Animals and Men, and Carl and his dad go to visit Guy the Gorilla. And yes, if you want to become more involved, you can support us on Patreon, you can visit our Facebook page, or you can follow me on Twitter. All these links are in the description below. Enjoy.
Harold Wilson once said that a week is a long time in politics. Well, 3 weeks is an awful long time as regards internet memes. So it's quite possible that the thing we're just about to talk about will have been, come and gone and been completely forgotten by the time we broadcast it in about 3 weeks' time. Charlotte, have you been following the storm Area 51?
I have.
Okay, tell me about it.
Basically, a Facebook event has started, and it was basically about storming Area 51 to see them aliens. And I think it was almost 1 million people have signed up for it.
I think it's 1.5 million now.
Oh, wow.
And the people at the security at the Area 51 air base are already putting big things up online saying, "We do not want you to invade our airspace"? Do you think that's because they're hiding aliens?
I mean, we don't know, do we? So we can't definitely say.
Truthfully, do you think there are aliens hidden there?
Maybe not aliens, but something.
Well, yes, it's a place where they've been testing experimental aircraft for the last 70 years. But there is some logic behind it, I would suppose, that if they want to be able to overwhelm the base security and be able to go and find the files or the experimental aircraft or the crashed UFOs or whatever else is there, then if hundreds of thousands of people go and do that, it makes some sort of sense. But have you heard that the same people now want to do something similar at Loch Ness?
I have not.
Well, apparently the same people have, like I said, I totally doubt whether the invasion of Area 51 will ever take place, but it does make a bit of sense if you actually believe that there's something being hidden there. But a whole bunch more people are now planning to storm Loch Ness, which is a project with a hell of a lot less of a logical motive. Whether there is a Loch Ness monster or not remains a matter of debate by the general public and the media. But if there is such a thing, and if there is, it's almost certainly a large fish, the only way its existence could be determined is scientifically. And a bunch of overexcited social media users rampaging around the Great Glen may do wonders for the local tourist industry, but it's highly unlikely to actually achieve anything else. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you have to break into the lake.
No, and if you did break into the lake, you'd find yourself in some very deep, very cold, and very peaty water that you can't see more than a few inches in front of your face in. So, I think I don't want to come over as some old git who's been totally negative to young people and what they do, but I think this is totally pointless.
What, storming Loch Ness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No loss to society if they'll go and jump in the blooming lake.
Charlotte, do you remember a few months ago we were talking about the Irish guy who had a name that I still can't pronounce, Owen something, who saw the Loch Ness Monster, or what he thinks is the Loch Ness Monster, twice on almost 2 consecutive months earlier this year?
Vaguely, yeah.
Would you believe he's seen it again? So this takes up to the 4th time he's seen something on these Loch Ness webcams. So, what do you think of that?
It's a blob. It's 2 blobs.
It's 2 blobs. And it's 2 blobs in Urquhart Bay. And this time there is a boat in the background. I think we have some video. Let's have a look and see what, if anything, we can get from this. I don't think the video adds anything much to it, does it?
No.
2 blobs.
2 blobs.
Owen, of course, quite not unsurprisingly, believes that it's the Loch Ness Monster. And a Loch Ness Monster researcher called Mikko Takala, on whose equipment these things were seen on July the 10th, believes that the hot weather might be behind the new sightings. I think it's pronounced Owen O'Fadigan. Yeah, let's call him Owen O'Fadigan because it's better than calling him Owen Unpronounceable. Owen O'Fadigan was also watching the pictures live and made his own recording of the eerie incident, according to The Sun. And, of course, The Sun is not the best source for scientific reporting, but he said, The day of the sighting was extremely windy, as you can notice from the trees moving over and back. When I noticed the two strange shapes first, they were either side of each other and not behind each other, going in the same general direction. The two strange shapes were identical to each other, and that also gave me the impression it was two separate objects. Owen estimates that the objects were both in the region of 20 foot long and poking about 5 feet out of the water.
I mean, the video doesn't really do it justice, but I mean,
I really must admit, and I'm not trying to be nasty about this, I can't see how you can say it's 20 foot long and 5 feet out of the water from those rather
blurry cameras.
Blurry little blobs. They could be anything. Oh dear, why can't we ever find a Loch Ness Monster picture that you and I both think's really good? Do you know that there was a really, really good one a couple of years ago? Have you seen this? I can't remember. Let's have a look. This was just before we started doing On the Track, so you may or may not have seen it. And it's an absolutely remarkably good picture. And no one can say that's not a really good. Do you know what it is?
An eel?
I can see why you'd say it was an eel.
Seal?
Seals. That's 3 seals playing in a row. But that's an incredibly good picture. And it's sad that when something that good comes up, you immediately think, well, it can't really be the Loch Ness Monster. Oh well, better luck next month.
Did we ever hear back about anything else about the weird creature from Azerbaijan?
The one in the video?
Yeah.
I asked John the other day and he said we had hit a dead end.
No. It's all sort of done in a Turkish dialect, I thought. I'm surprised nobody's actually got it sort of translated.
My best friend's from Turkey.
Now, for those of you that don't remember, someone from Iran sent a video to John a few months back, and whilst we attempted to make a pretty good breakdown of it, we really couldn't understand what they were saying.
And then, of course, Karina was commandeered by a mystery animal of her own. A few days later, I caught up with my friend Amazon and showed her the video on my phone. Unfortunately, it turns out that Persian Turkish, or at least the type of Persian Turkish spoken in Azerbaijan, is very different to the language spoken in a part of Turkey where Amazon's family come from. But she did understand a few bits, and we did manage to get some useful information from it.
They're commenting on its hands. Okay. Have they said anything else?
At the beginning part they said something about plastic, but that was more so that it's because it's the same word.
Do you know what they're saying about its hands, or?
No.
And then came a noise which was undoubtedly some kind of monkey.
I think they might have named it Beji.
Beji?
I think so.
What does that mean?
Don't know.
Don't. It's weird how he's kind of just cradling it.
Yeah.
Like more so sort of like a child more than a pet.
Yeah. I think earlier maybe they were talking about giving it to his hand instead of feeding it, instead of giving it to his mouth.
So like teaching him.
Yeah. Possibly.
Looks like it's easily freaked out by the things.
Yeah. Sounds a bit like a monkey.
That's it. Nice. I definitely think it's an animal of some sort, so I highly doubt it's some sort of mechanical thing. If you look at the eyes, it's just... I don't know how you would be able to replicate that.
I think it has too much fluid movement that it does it multiple times.
Just notice his ring. I sincerely hope that is a fake eye. And after we had watched the video, we discussed it. So, how much of that could you...
Not a lot.
Well, there was some stuff.
But there were some words that sound familiar. So, I don't know if that's just because they sound familiar, or if because they use the same word for the same thing. But at some point they were talking about, the cameraman and the person holding it were talking about give it to his hand instead of just feeding it. And I think the most helpful bit, if you can find anyone who can fully translate it, will be at the very beginning, because I think that's where they're explaining things a lot. I'm not sure if this is what actually happened, or if it's mostly speculation of the small teeny tiny bits that I actually heard, which is maybe they found it when they came from work, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I heard the word work in there. Black. Makes sense, the fur is black.
Yeah.
And plastic. It might have been rummaging in the plastic, I don't know.
Yeah. From what you sort of translated, it kind of sounds like whatever it is, they've only got it fairly recently. Not from what I thought, like this guy had it for like ages and ages, but it sounds like he's had it for a smaller amount of time than what you thought.
Yeah.
What I thought even.
It's almost like with each clip, more time has passed.
Yeah. Well, that's something.
It's something. I don't think it's very helpful.
Well,
but
it's something. I mean, we don't have any definite answers, but at least we now have a possible clue, the fact that whatever it is, they haven't had it for a while.
Yeah.
And they found it rather than he's reared it from birth or something.
I don't know if they found it.
It's a guess,
It's
but
a guess.
I'm guessing it's quite a well-educated guess from what they've been saying.
Meh.
Nah.
It's more like I heard the word work and he was explaining stuff. He might have brought it back from work, or for all I know.
Right.
So
That would be a lot more
weird.
And raise a lot more questions.
Yeah. But I don't know. Different type of language.
Yeah. I didn't think you were going to be able to understand all of it. I knew there was probably going to be a few bits you would probably understand, but It's better than nothing.
I tried.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
So whilst we know a bit more than we did before, some things remain a mystery. The animal appears to be some sort of monkey in a costume, or even in a bag. But why and how it is there, and why it is being filmed, remains a mystery. But it is a mystery that all of us here at On The Track are determined to solve. As you will have noticed, we edited the film quite heavily, but if you want to see it all, and what Amazon and I said about it, the film will be available in full for our Patreon subscribers very soon. If you pledge as little as £1 a month, you will be able to see it in full.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I know that I'm an avowed anti-capitalist, and you're probably tired of me saying so in this show, but I do sometimes sell things. And the CFZ sometimes sells things, and there are members of the extended CFZ family who do all sorts of interesting things, which I think would be of interest to you people out there in consumer land. So, if I can coin a term from the late lamented Ivan T. Sanderson, let me tell you about some of these things. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud and pleased to be able to announce that the latest issue, that's a double issue, 68/69, of Animals and Men, the journal of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, is now available to read for free on the CFZ website. That's www.cfz.org.uk if you didn't know. And in this episode, we have the editorial, we have a memorial to Lee Walker, written by my old friend V. McCrinnan. We have the news. We have stuff on blue dogs, chupacabra, man-beasts, mystery cats, aquatic monsters. We have Carl Marshall taking a good look at the story and the subsequent mythos of Deloy's ape. We have Karina's Watcher of the Skies. We have me writing about the events that happened earlier in the year when a dead pine marten was found in South Devon. We have something about strange squirrels seen around the world in Hong Kong and in parts of Britain. We have something by Richard Muirhead on horned alligators or crocodiles. We have an article on the Nebraska chupacabra. We have Ronan Coughlin's Duties for Regional Representatives discussion document. We have letters to the editor, which includes a fascinating account of an hitherto unsuspected owlman sighting from somewhere in Norfolk only a few years ago. We have book reviews, and we have a roundup of our most recent books. And yes, it's free. Like I told you earlier, it's free. You don't have to pay nout for it. Now, also, for some of you who have been complaining over the years that the magazine may come out for free, but it only comes out in a digital flip book format, well, I'm very pleased to say that we are now working on the first volume of collected editions of these recent books which have never come out in hard copy before. So there's going to be a collected edition of the first 4 of these very soon. And also, your cup runneth over, boys and girls, because we are now working on the 2020 yearbook, the first yearbook we've done for the last 4 years. So things are really looking up here at CFZ Press. Matt Salisbury is an old friend of the CFZ. He appeared on many occasions at the Weird Weekend, and he authored a book on pygmy elephants that we published through CFZ Press. A few days ago he wrote to me on Twitter. Hey John, I have 2 talks on wood roses in Suffolk coming up soon. The first one is on the 12th of September, arranged by Halesworth Museum at the United Reformed Church, Key Street, Halesworth at 7:30 p.m, £4 on the door, and on Saturday the 21st of September, an Orford Museum production, Orford Town Hall, 6 p.m. Any chance you could plug them on the blog and in CFZ TV's product placement? Well, of course I can. I just have. Good luck, mate. 55 years ago, in 1964, I was 5 years old, and my grandfather took me to London, to the Natural History Museum and to London Zoo in Regent's Park. Both these places have remained dear to me ever since. And last month, Carl and his family went to the Natural History Museum.
Okay, who do we have here?
This is Guy. He was set up at the London workshops, and I went there in the late 70s and watched them making the castle for the body.
Wow, okay. This is probably
before the skin was put on.
Yeah. This is probably one of the most famous gorillas, isn't it?
Yeah.
The 5-year-old Jonathan was massively impressed when he met Guy the gorilla for the first time. He had been captured in the Cameroons, which were then the British Cameroons, back in 1947, and he lived at Regent's Park Zoo until dying of a heart attack in 1978. And yes, Carl and his father are quite correct. He's one of the most famous gorillas of all time. And there is a statue of him at London Zoo to this very day. Many battery chickens are kept in such appalling conditions that they do not live very long, even after they've been rescued. Some years ago we rescued 6, but I'm afraid by this spring there was only one left. Her name is Henny Penny, and she was quite happy to carry on ruling the roost, but we thought that she probably needed some companions. So, at the end of July, we took receipt of another 4 rescued chickens. There were a few scuffles between Henny Penny and her new friends, but after a day or two they seemed to have sorted out their pecking order, and indeed Henny Penny liked to go to sleep with one of her new friends in her old coop. A week or so after they'd settled in, we went through the rather onerous task of ringing them so we could tell them apart. By ringing, I mean, of course, putting little plastic-coloured rings on their legs, not calling them up on the telephone, just in case you thought that was what I meant. And as everybody knows, I have a completely soft spot for chickens. It wouldn't have been altogether surprising, I suppose. The chickens seem very happy together, and they are rewarding us for our rescue attempts by giving us enormous numbers of eggs, so we are being able to pass on eggs free, gratis and for nothing to all our friends in the area.
Don't let this one...
And now it's time to go over to Karina for our regular monthly visit to the Watcher of the Skies.
I have always felt a curious affinity with this species of bird, probably because for 30 years I was a secretary, and this is a secretary bird. A highly specialised ground-dwelling bird of prey from an older family than the other Old World raptors. It is native to sub-Saharan Africa and is sadly non-migratory, so will never be a natural visitor to these shores. But I think you'd be surprised quite how many completely unexpected avian visitors Britain does have, and that's what this segment of On the Track is all about. Bernard Heuvelmans himself said that cryptozoology wasn't the study of monsters, but the study of unexpected animals, and in the UK what could be more unexpected than vultures, spoonbills and albatrosses? Yes, even the kings of the Southern Ocean have been seen in British waters. 2 species of albatross have been recorded in the UK in recent years. Not all of our feathered visitors are quite so spectacular, but nearly every day there is something exciting to greet the Watcher of the Skies.
Hello and welcome. A Savis warbler has nested in Wales for the first time ever, according to RSPP Cymru. This warbler is known for its long buzzing song and is a rare visitor to Britain, with most appearing in the south and east of England. Wales has had only 8 previous records. While common in southern Europe, they are at the very limit of their range here, and breeding attempts are sporadic, though perhaps under-recorded due to their shy and retiring nature. Most records are of single males that just stay for a few days, which makes confirmed nesting an exciting result for the staff, volunteers and bird watchers on the reserve. A European roller was seen and photographed on a boat in the Bristol Channel between Milford and Lundy Island, Devon, when the bird arrived on deck while the vessel was some 10 miles off Lundy and stayed with the bewildered crew for some time until the boat came within a few miles of the island. Skipper David Millett explained it stayed with us for about 2 hours, mainly perched on the cross trees high on the mast. It took a few short flights but always returned to the perch. It was about the size of a large thrush, and when we looked in the book it was rather the colour of the bee-eater, but the tail was fan-shaped and with no central tail feathers. David sent the photo to Lundy warden Dean Jones, who was able to confirm that the bird was indeed a European roller. The bird is presumed to have flown towards Lundy, as it was seen leaving the boat not far from the island, but was not seen there, and news only came to light on the evening of the 4th of July. In late July, 2 young choughs were spotted on the Herefordshire Beacon in the Malvern Hills. They are among Britain's rarest birds, with little more than 300 pairs in the country. Worcester-based birdwatcher Brian Stretch said that they were largely feeding on the Herefordshire side of the hill, but they spent a short while just inside Worcestershire, thereby constituting the first county record since 1826. The chough lives on short grazed grassland and coastal heathland where it probes the ground with its long red bill for insects, according to the Wildlife Trusts. Acrobatic in flight, it has a chiao call. The chough builds nests in small colonies in crevices and fissures on rock edges and cliff faces, and sometimes in abandoned buildings. It looks like a small crow and is distinguished from a similar jackdaw by its long curved red bill, red legs and entirely black plumage. The chough is the symbol of Cornwall. It is on the county's coat of arms, and according to legend, King Arthur turned into a chough on his death.
He was really chuffed with that.
I know, that's a really unexpected little joke.
You really know how to sort of produce this quivering jelly, don't you, dear?
Yes. Corncrakes have returned to Rathlin Island off the coast of Ballycastle, County Antrim in Northern Ireland for the first time in 30 years, and 2 pairs have been confirmed. Known for their unmistakable crex call, corncrakes are highly secretive and likely to settle in early growing tall vegetation such as nettles, cow parsley and irises. One of the sites in Church Bay is on land owned by an islander but managed by RSB Northern Ireland that has had nettles planted by staff and teams of volunteers to encourage the birds, summer migrants from Western Africa, to return to Rathlin. RSB Rathlin Island Warden Liam McFall said it's been an exceptional year because for the first time since the 1980s we have 2 calling corncrakes, and this is brilliant. The birds have 2 broods and the second brood will be hatching in late July. And he added a theory of his that the male has been calling out in 2 or 3 different locations and then moving across the road to the other side, and is calling quite a lot all night long and quite often during the day. Because of this behaviour, this could indicate that there could be more than 1 female in that area, and he's tending to 2 areas at once. But because the females are silent, it cannot be known for sure. The second male corncrake has been recorded on private land on the western end of Rathlin. McFall believes the return of a sustainable corncrake population would be a huge boost for the island, and explained that each breeding pair can produce up to 16 eggs each breeding season, although there is a high mortality rate with the birds. After the second brood hatches later this month, birds will migrate back to Africa in August or September. And that's it for this month, and now it's time to go over to John and his new and recently discovered species. Goodbye.
Well, despite the fact that I usually try to stay clear of politics here on the track, I do, honest. The recent ecocide that's taken place in the Amazon rainforest prompted me to cherry-pick 3 new species discovered in the South American rainforests for this episode of On the Track. Enjoy. Bothrops monsignifer. A new species of montane pit viper has been described. It belongs to the genus Bothrops from the Cordillera Oriental of the Central Andes, distributed from southern Peru to central Bolivia. The new species can be distinguished from its congeners by the characteristic combination of a dorsal body colour pattern consisting of triangular or subtriangular dark stripes amongst many others. The new species is apparently restricted to areas within the Andean montane forests that are less humid and devoid of large trees. Pristimantis nelsonii. A new frog of the genus Pristimantis has been described from a montane cloud forest of the province of Morona Santiago in the upper basin of the Upano River in southeastern Ecuador. The description of the new species is based on the examination of 11 adult males and 3 adult females. The new taxon can be readily distinguished from other congeneric species that inhabit the eastern Andes of Ecuador by the unique combination of the following characteristics. Small body, with the adult males being only between 12 and 17 millimeters, while the adult females are only a little bit larger. Skin of the dorsum is finely shagreen, with 2 subconnacular scapular tubercles, weak and discontinuous dorsolateral folds in the middle of the back, large tympanum, 70 to 93% of the eye diameter, and several others. For those of you who do not know this, the tympanum, which is a very similar word with very similar derivation to that used for orchestral percussion or timpani, is the eardrum, and in frogs and toads the tympanum is a large external oval-shaped membrane made up of non-glandular skin. It's located just behind the eye. It doesn't process sound waves, it just simply transmits them to the inner parts of the amphibian's ear, which is protected from the entry of water and other foreign objects. Leptopanchax sanguineus. This last species may already be extinct. Specimens of killifish found between 1985 and 1988 in the Mahe River basin in southeastern Brazil were misidentified as being L. splendens. The recent rediscovery of other specimens in the Estrella River basin near the type locality of L. splendens has clarified the species concept, making it possible to recognize the Mahe River basin specimens as new species. The new species is described as Leptopanchax sanguineus and is distinguished from all other cyanopithelians by a unique colour pattern in males, which includes red bars with sinuous margins. It was collected in a well-preserved temporary shallow swampy area within dense moist forest, but since 1990 the species has not been found again. Leptopanchax sanguineus is one of 3 species of cyanopithelian killifishes living in lowland moist forests of the coastal plains of Rio de Janeiro state, where the greatest diversity of endemic cyanopithelians is concentrated. Each of these species has been recorded only a single time in the last 30 years, a surprisingly low record attributable to intense deforestation during the last several decades, resulting in small, fragmented lowland moist forests as of today. This study indicates that seasonal killifishes adapted to uniquely live in this kind of habitat should be regarded with special concern in all further studies which evaluate conservation priorities. I would like to also point out that whereas every effort has been made to contact the copyright holders of these photographs, we believe that we are justified in reproducing them in this not-for-profit video using the policy of fair use. However, if there is anybody who believes that their intellectual or legal rights have been infringed, please contact us and we will do our best to bring the matter to a mutually acceptable solution.
First there's this.
And in next month's episode...
Next month we have more stuff from the Natural History Museum with Carl and actually I don't know what's going to be next month, but I hope you'll enjoy it anyway.
And then there's this.
Before we get on to the end bits, I'd like to tell everybody that Charlotte passed all her GCSEs and we're very proud of her. This month there are 3 new members to the On the Track family. I've been bellyaching for a while how I wanted to have researchers, and it never occurred to me that I have to hand the two best researchers I've ever met, Richard Muirhead and Nigel Wright. Welcome aboard, lads. And finally, as I keep on saying, I know very little about social media and care less. But here we have a young lady who I've known nearly all her life, who is a social media guru, and so she's taking over doing all this stuff, and I'd like to introduce you to Rosie Curtis. And what else is there? Well, you might have noticed that this episode is a little shorter than the last few. This was intentional. The show was getting longer and longer and longer, and eventually Charlotte and Graham in particular told me that enough was enough. So we've cut it back down to a manageable size again, and very soon we're going to be starting something new. On the Track is going to continue to come out once a month, but in between episodes there are going to be shorter things that we are probably going to call something like On the Track Shorts. But I'm afraid you're all just going to have to wait and see on this. Toodle pip.
Thank you for watching this episode of On the Track. We hope you enjoyed it, and your support really means a lot to us. We hope to see you next month. Goodbye!
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about it for this episode. We sincerely hope that you enjoy watching it as much as we enjoy putting it together, because as I'm now in my 61st year, life is fairly strange, but putting together On the Track is probably the high spot of my month. I've been running the Centre for Fortean Zoology now for very nearly 30 years, and I can say with hand on heart that the enduring mysteries of the natural world intrigue and fascinate me as much now, if not more, than they ever did. And I very much hope that, in a little way, we can share the knowledge of such fascinating and remarkable things with as many people out there who care to watch. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you again next month. So until then, be seeing you.